Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Most welcome.
Good afternoon, Govil from Shipyards Association of India.
Good afternoon, Hajra Saab.
Teacher, can you close the
Good
door?
afternoon. Good afternoon.
Mera, you will be able to
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah.
video on of panelists and the VIPs.
Yeah.
And I'm just telling Mr. Mehra, our technical Bex.
Okay.
And I would suggest keep the video off for everybody else. Otherwise, they'll be jumbling up on the main screen. Mehra, could you speak to Anil Singh?
Anji, there was some problem with his downloading, so he's using the link to come in.
Jairaj Kumar sir, welcome sir.
Good evening, Jairaj.
Rakesh, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Have you opened the waiting room, Sanjeev?
Anji, sir.
Hi Vijay, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Ji. Good evening. Kya haal hai?
Yes. Fine, how are you?
Yeah, all well, all well. Thank you.
Working from home?
Yeah, there is no other way. Good, good.
क्या हुआ?
शुक्ला साहब नहीं दिखाई दे रहे.
Mehra, you are heard now outside.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. He's joining in 1 minute.
Sanjeev, Mr. Anil Kishore has joined. Can you take him in?
Sir, waiting room is disabled. So,
Mr. Mehra, I have joined. I have to register again. So I'm joined there, but you have switched off my video.
I cannot find you. Anil Kishore करके है, नाम क्या है, sir? How have you put your number or name or whatever?
मेरा अदानी email ID मांगा था. मैंने email ID मांगा था, तो I have given anil.kishore.singh@adani.
नहीं, वो नाम क्या लिखा? Because
Keep your video
Anil
off. Sanjeev, keep your video off. Dr. Amita Prasad, welcome, madam.
Good afternoon to everybody.
Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome, madam. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, madam. This is Jairaj here.
Good afternoon, Jairaj. How are you?
I'm very well, ma'am. Thank you.
But I think your video is off. We can't see it.
That is the organizer's prerogative to keep other videos off.
Good afternoon, Malini. I can see
Yeah. Hi, Amita. How are you?
you. Very good. Nice to see you. And
Very
your
nice.
and congratulations as being the chairperson of
Thank you.
NMB,
Yeah. NSB. Yeah.
NSB.
Madam, I can share with you, she has been appointed a Vice Chancellor of Indian Maritime University, Chennai yesterday.
Oh, this I did.
Oh, congratulations, madam.
Thank
Good
you.
afternoon,
Thank
Malini.
you. Good afternoon.
Congratulations.
Good afternoon.
Richly deserved.
Thank you so much, Amita, for kind words.
So you have to shift base from here to Chennai.
Yes, and that's my mind is torn between Mumbai and Chennai.
Your heart was very close to the seafarers and their trainings, madam, during your
Yeah.
tenure as DG.
Yeah. I'm happy about that, but it's not easy to shift from your karma bhumi to the janma bhumi after so many years.
Oh, I'm sure
That's
you'll do
true.
well.
That's true.
I'm sure
That's
you'll
what.
do well.
Because
IMU has another centers also. In Kolkata also you have a center.
Yes. They have Kolkata, Cochin. They have in Mumbai also.
In Mumbai also.
Yeah. But I think
You
for the
can
next,
shift the headquarter for some time.
Sir, you're welcome.
actually, it's a very good idea.
Sanjeev, please, sir.
Many people will second that, ma'am.
Propose that. I don't mind that for the next 6 months. Slowly, I get used to moving. At least for 3-4 months till the COVID.
Right, sir. So can we start, sir?
Please, please.
Yes.
Jain, sir.
Yeah, can start. Please go ahead.
So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome you all for a session on inland waterways. So we are already running behind schedule. We're waiting for people to come in. I'll hand over to the chairman of Mumbai Branch, Mr. Vijendra Jain, for an introductory note. Jain, sir.
Yes, please. Dr. Malini Shankar, Chairperson of the National Shipping Board, and now very recently nominated as the Vice Chancellor of the Indian Maritime University. Dr. Prasad, Chairperson of IWAI, Tom Joe, Chairman of the Kerala Shipping and Inland Navigation Corporation, Mr. Shashi Bhushan, Member of the IWAI, Mr. Vijay Arora, Joint Managing Director, Indian Register of Shipping, Captain Anil Kishore Singh, CEO, Dredging and Inland Waterways, Adani Group, Captain Rakesh Singh, General Secretary, Association of Indian Coastal Shipowners, Assistant Professor in the New Jersey. Eminent members of the shipping fraternity who are present here today, colleagues and friends. It gives me great pleasure to extend a warm welcome to you all for this conclave on inland waterways, transportation in India and the way forward, which is being organized by the Mumbai branch of the Institute of Marine Engineers, India. We are indeed grateful to Dr. Malini Shankar for this idea, or shall I say, push for organizing of this conclave, and are also simultaneously humbled and encouraged by this tremendous response from the marine fraternity for this initiative. We have had over 550 registrations for this seminar, and a large number of our members and guests do watch our programs live from our Facebook page as well. The importance of utilization of waterways in the world has been there for many centuries. We hear of Egyptian ships in 1500 BC and about the ship repair facilities in Lothal, Gujarat in 2200 BC. However, the complete utilization of the available inland waterways is, shall I say, still in the nascent stage in our country. There has been a growing realization of this recently. IWAI, the Inland Waterway Authority of India, formed in 1986, and it is very recently in 2016 that 111 waterways were declared as national waterways through an act. With over 15,000 kilometers of navigable waterways, which comprise of rivers, canals, backwaters, creeks, etc. in our country, the importance of this sector cannot be overemphasized. If developed for shipping and navigation, This maze of water bodies can not only provide an economic, fuel efficient and environmental friendly mode of transport, but also a cheap and easy way of transporting passengers and goods in our vast country. Besides the thrust of the development of the much talked about National Waterway 1, extending through the Ganga, Bhagirathi, Hooghly rivers for over 1600 kilometers long, we also have other areas which are being developed. The Brahmaputra River in the northeast, the rivers of Goa in the west, the delta regions of Godavari and Krishna rivers in the east, and the backwaters of Kerala in the south are all under focus and receiving attention now. I may make a special mention of the development that Kerala has made in this sector with a number of houseboats, ferries, and other crafts, some of which are very technically advanced and, shall I say, solar powered as well, thereby conserving energy. Unfortunately, due to the neglect over decades, the share of the transportation of goods using inland waterways is currently less than 1% of the over 1,000 billion tons which are transported by rail and road. Most of the waterways suffer from navigational hazards like shallow waters, narrow width of the channel, siltation, bank erosion, and a lack of infrastructure. The inland vessels are also very different from the regular ocean-going vessels. Their average capacities are only 500 to 600 tons. There is an IV bill which is under consideration and which should also help in giving a boost to this sector. We look forward to the discussions by our very eminent guests from different sectors in this very inland waterway transport during the next 1.5 hours. A large part of our conclave today has been designed as a question and answer session to our esteemed panelists. We have received a number of questions from the industry, which shall be passed on to our guest speakers, and they shall try and address them in the short time available. If I may take a minute of your time, the Mumbai branch of the Institute of Marine Engineers has truly taken on the challenge of COVID-19 head-on during the last few months. We've had something lined up almost every weekend for our members as compared to one every quarter, which we used to be used to earlier, or which we used to arrange earlier. Encouraged by a tremendous response for our hydraulics course, which we had organized earlier this month, with registrations coming in not only from across India. We had candidates joining from other countries like Singapore for our hydraulics course. Encouraged by this, we have organized another value-added course. Starting Tuesday, 4th August, we have organized a 3-day course in ultrasonic testing, which will be particularly suitable for ships, engineers and masters, ship repairers, superintendents, and class surveyors to help them get exposed to this very important subject. We look forward to your continued encouragement and support for our initiatives. I now hand over proceedings to our very dynamic Sanjeev Mehra, who not only runs a fairly large marine repairs company, but also finds time to continuously help organize things in the Mumbai branch of the IMEI. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jain sir, for the kind words. I now invite Dr. Malini Shankar to inaugurate the conclave. While she is widely known, I may introduce her briefly. Dr. Malini Shankar is an officer of the 1984 Indian Administrative Service and has doctoral degree in public policy, institutional economics from the prestigious Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. She took over the reins of Director General of Shipping in December 2016 and superannuated in 2018. During her stay at DGS, with her dynamism, she brought about many significant and noticeable changes, importantly in e-governance and overall management. She is currently on the board of directors of ILNFL, the chairperson of National Shipping Board, and as most of you might have learned, added one more feather in her illustrious cap yesterday when she was appointed as the Vice Chancellor of Indian Maritime University, Chennai. Our heartiest congratulations to her and wish her all the best in her new assignment. Dr. Malini Shankar, madam, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mehra. And friends, Mr. Tom Jose, my dear friend.
Hi.
Just stepped down as Chief Secretary of the Government of Kerala. my friend Dr. Amita Prasad. Association goes back a long way. Mr. Shashi Bhushan, Mr. Vijay Arora, Captain Anil Kishore Singh, Captain Rakesh Singh, and Mr. S.M. Rai, who has put all this worked hard to put all this together. I think this has been an idea which I have discussed with Mr. Rai and his associates for many days during my stint as DG Shipping, because I think we have not really utilized the potential of Inland Waterways in India. So as a child, I grew up in Chennai, and we had cows at home. And the fodder, to bring the fodder, we would actually go to the local, what we call Buckingham Canal, which is today a sewage canal, but those days it's actually a waterway. This Buckingham Canal was built during the famine of the 1800s, and it brought water all the way. I think you could navigate it right upstream up to Vijayawada, if I'm right. So, I mean, it was alive and kicking till about 1970s when, the rail and road took over. As Mr. Jain had mentioned, the National Waterways Act 2016 has declared 111 rivers, river stretches, creeks, estuaries in India as a national waterways. And a well-coordinated national water network could bring a fundamental alterations in the logistics of the country. Computed for a 500-ton self-propelled unit working at 75% load factor for 300 days in a year, the cost of water transport is significantly lower than train or road transport. As per a study conducted by RITES, that is the arm of railways, with respect to the integrated national waterways transportation grid, 1 liter of fuel will move 24 tons through 1 kilometer on road and 95 on rail and 215 kilometers on inland water transport. As we all know, water transport was a normal, important mode of trade and commerce to the early 20th century. The inland water transport now is limited to states like Assam, West Bengal, and a few coastal areas. India ranks 9th in the world in terms of potential navigable waterways. The total navigable inland waterways in India is estimated to be 14,500 crores, but it carries less than 0.5% of India's freight. Assam has 10% of the total inland waterways. Dr. Prasad can correct me if I'm wrong. And Kerala utilizes about 20% of its 1,680 kilometers of waterways and navigable canals. The challenges are many, as Mr. Jain has already mentioned. The lack of continuous flow of water, the depth of water, infrastructure for storage, air draft in terms of low bridges, lack of maintenance, excessive siltation, even shortage of inland water transport vessels, and of course competition from road and rail. There is a case for not only promoting inland water transport, but for actually promoting electric boats. Kerala has done it. As we know that the operational efficiencies for electric boats, the bottom line has been calculated as half of the diesel boats. And then it goes even better for solar boats. So I may draw a comparison. The cargo movement in 2014-15 by inland water transport was 365.37 lakh tons, and it represented a twofold increase in 10 years. Over short distances, mostly in Goa and in Maharashtra. But if you compare it with coastal transport, which is very low even today, but there's a 6-fold increase between the years 2012-13 and 2019-20. Given this background and given the commitment of the government to promote inland water transport, I look forward to a very vibrant session on how we can collectively put our heads and act together to promote this to the benefit of both logistics sector as well as the environment. And thank you very much once again for organizing this, and special thanks to Tom and Amita for very proactively, being part of this. Thank you so much. Over to Mr.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Malini Shankarji, so much for inaugurating the session. Now I will invite Dr. Amita Prasad, Chairman of Inland Waterways Authority of India, to say a few words. Dr. Amita Prasad is a 1985 batch Indian Administrative Service officer. She holds postgraduate degree in history and economics and a doctorate degree in public policy. She has served as a Principal Secretary of Urban Development, Rural Development, Energy, Women and Child Development in the Government of Karnataka. At the center, Dr. Amita Prasad has served as Additional Secretary in Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change and Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Earlier, she was the Director General, National Productivity Council. She is the current chairperson of Inland Waterways Authority of India. Dr. Amita Prasad.
Good evening, and thank you very much for inviting Dr. Malini Shankar, Shri Tom Jose, Shri Jain, Shri Mehra, and all the participants. It would have been very good if we could have met in a room and talked, but anyway, this is a good initiative taken by all of you. Dr. Shankar has already talked a lot about what is happening in the water sector, what is the percentage and what we can do. I'll give you just a snapshot what we are trying to do it. Let us look at what are the potential of this water sector. There is no denial that there is a huge potential for this waterways, and there can be a lot of things to be done. As we go along, we had only 5 waterways till 2014. And in 2016, we notified about new 105 waterways. Now, in these waterways, as Dr. Shankar Malini also said, that different type of waterways were added. It can be a canal also, it can be estuary. So the length went up from almost 5,500 to, it went up to 20,000 kilometers. Out of that, about 14,000 are slightly navigable and rest are not navigable, especially in northeastern part. So what is the potential we are talking about? In entire thing, we are talking about 30% of the waterways which can be effective and can be used. If you look at the percentage of utilization, we are utilizing NW1, which is Ganga and Hooghly river system, NW2, which is Brahmaputra system, NW3, which is Kerala, huge potential, and it can really happen. But then things have not moving. The traffic has remained static in Kerala for last 10 years at 40,000 metric ton. That also from one company of fertilizer. Goa has a huge potential. They are not utilizing it so much. Maharashtra and Gujarat, they are trying to do so much. And that is also a lot of private initiatives are there. Now here I can see a lot of people who have gathered here today are the people who are the forwarders or looking into the logistics sector. There is water and it can be utilized. If there is a road, does anybody ask, can I take my truck? So when there is a water, why everybody is saying that we cannot do it? You need so much of potential. If I tell you very correctly, Calcutta to Sahabganj, from Sahabganj to Haldia, Haldia via Bangladesh, Bangladesh to Pandu, huge potential is there and we are trying to move. You will be very happy to know that recently, and it is going on, iron we are trying to shift from Kolkata towards Bangladesh by using waterways. We have a very tiny success here, but iron can move. Coal, I was seeing the old papers. Since 2008, we are talking that we will shift coal. We did 3 or 4, some, pilot movements were happening and then nothing happened. So my point is that there is a potential and there are things happening. Can we look at it? What are the bottlenecks and how we can look into it? Now, what is a demand forecast? There is no demand forecast. I mean, if you look at it, and Malini talked about the percentages, there is a small correction. We are not 1%, we are 2%, which is a very tiny thing. And we want to go to 3% by 2030, again, very tiny.
It's doubled.
It's doubled. It is doubled. The traffic has doubled, and thank you for that. But the thing is that we are talking about the potential that yes, 11 million tons of cargo can go on that. And we want to go up to that by 2030. We want to go to 123 million tons. That is a potential. But are we able to look at the demand forecast? That demand forecast we don't have. Not like railways or road, we are not able to do it still, or maybe the legit method, if we look at it, at the time and cost, we can work it out on that. The second thing is that what are the strengthening required in this sector? I'll just give you 2 or 3 examples of what we are doing so that at least the industry will be comfortable in knowing that a lot of things are happening. We are doing this on Ganga. We are putting into almost 4,000 crore rupees, and we have made 3 multimodal, one at Varanasi, one in Sahibganj, another is Haldia. 2 have been inaugurated. Haldia is likely to be inaugurated by end of this year. Because of COVID, we are slightly slow now. And this is one potential, and we have called them on the private partnership basis. The tender has been already floated. Happy to know that about 8 to 10 big companies have come. And I'm very hopeful that Sahibganj and Haldia will fetch very good participation. Varanasi, I'm putting my fingers crossed on that. The other things what we are doing is in Kerala, we are trying to tie up with the state government now. We have got very favorable response from state government of Kerala, and we are trying to do something there by building up putting it some money. And that NW2 sector also, which is Brahmaputra, we are putting in some 300 crores of rupees for fairway maintenance, providing navigational channel, which will modernize the entire system. So by next 5 years, we will be putting about 1,000 crore we are putting in various sectors. As I told you earlier, that there are 111 waterways, but out of 111 waterways, only 22 are very potential. The rest all are not for cargo. It can be about 40 of them more can be for the traffic, passenger traffic, and rest are not feasible because they are in the mountainous area, or they have less water, or their length is too small, or the state governments are also not keen. So let us build up these 22 which can be built up properly and not frittering away our this thing on other waterways. One thing I like to tell you all, that 1, 2 and Indo-Bangladesh protocol route, which was also mentioned by all the other speakers before me, that this eastern grid has a lot of potential. But again, the problem is these areas are not, production areas. They are consumption areas. Like Assam doesn't have an industrial base. They are not able to send much items to us. And if a ship goes, it has to come back empty. But Sahibganj and other places, of course, Assam, some of them are on the Indo-Bhutan route. And Indo-Bhutan, we have a treaty, and one Pandu terminal is well done. And another Jogi Gopa also we have asked to be put on Indo-Bhutan. Now, what are they doing? Bhutan say there is going, stone chips are going towards Bangladesh. So this can be a very potential, and we can have a lot of cargo. Similarly, I was talking about Sahibganj. Sahibganj is on the cusp of primary material, which is coal and stone chips and fly ash. 97% of our cargo is fly ash. We have to move from cargo from fly ash to coal to steel to textile and other things. There is a lot of potential and there is a lot of demand. So my request to the industry will be that have a look at it, what can be happening on this. The last point I like to say, that how do we engage people so that waterways are used? The time has come to act. We have given a lot of webinars, seminars. We have written thousands of letters. Time has come to utilize it. It's a green, all of us know. It is very good waterway, we all know. Can we utilize it more? Like steel has shown an interest. Tata Steel has also come forward. Now SAIL has come forward. I'm sure with SAIL it can happen. Other thing which can move on this is LPG, which can also have a good waste. But then no bottling plant is near this. Before I close, I'll just tell you about one more concept which we are developing, which is known as Arth Ganga. Some of you who have paid attention to Honorable Prime Minister's speeches many places and also in the budget, and Arth Ganga has been mentioned. Now, Arth Ganga has a larger concept of not only inland waterways, we are a minor partner in this, but water as a sector which can be commercialized. So that is a possibility. Now, we had some World Bank funding left with us. So we are trying to do this Arth Ganga. What will it mean? Commercialization of this waterway, number one. Number two, providing more number of infrastructure like jetties and other. Number three, giving navigational aid. And number four, that to, coordinate other things. Passenger traffic also we are trying to move. and we have got some funding for about 10 tourism terminals to be done, 5 in Ganga and 5 in the northeast. So these are some of the initiatives by which we expect infrastructure will develop, people will be able to use. It is my earnest request is that try to use the waterway. One more thing I should cover it before I close my this thing. Indo-Bangladesh treaty is going on well. We had just signed second addendum by which 5 more protocols have been added. But we have another treaty which is, I don't know with the present situation in Nepal, things will move or not. But Inland Waterways is not mentioned in Indo-Nepal Treaty of 1991. We pointed out that if this is done, then our National Waterways 1 can be used by this Nepal flagged vessels also and third party vessels also, because from Kolkata bigger ship can go to the smaller ships and it can go to Sahibganj, and from Sahibganj Nepal is only 132 kilometers. Similarly, slightly further up near Patna, if we have, there is another place from where Nepal border is only 140 or 160 kilometers, and one near Banaras, which is 220 kilometers. So this can become another hub if Nepal cargo also comes. We are trying to modernize, trying to build up a lot of initiatives we are taking, like when the panelists come, I'm sure Shashi will be talking about it, on the initiatives which we are taking. By that, everything will become on one platform. So the time has come to come out of the seminar and webinars and try using it. Use as much as possible. Even if it is a small cargo, please try to use it. Newer routes have been opened and I'm sure it can happen. Thank you very much for inviting me here to be able to talk to you all. And I'm sure that this seminar will talk about it. A lot of positive results will come out. Suggestions will also come out, and IWI will benefit from your suggestions and everything. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Amita Prasad, madam. And now we would like to invite our senior marine engineer and past chairman of Mumbai Branch, Mr. S.M. Rai, to take on the further proceedings as a moderator. Rai, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mehra. And my special thanks to Dr. Malini Shankar for all her encouragement to organize this conclave today. And special thanks to Dr. Amita Prasad for agreeing to come and participate and give her views on the Inland Water Authority of India. I say at the outset that Institute was deliberating to hold this webinar or no, but considering that this is to be a very important arm of the maritime sector and for the progress of the nation, we jumped into it. I would also like to clarify that today we are here to deliberate and discuss the status of our various national waterways and how we can understand and assist to improve and enhance the island transportation by rivers, canal, creeks, and backwater. I got a lot of questions, but there are several complaints. But my request to the participants today, as Dr. Amita Prasad already asked, is to see that how we go and use these waterways and improve the transportation by the inland waterways of India. Because when we compare with our other mode of transport, particularly including by the ocean or rail, road, and this, the percentage, as she very rightly corrected, is just about 2%. Today we have, of course, to participate and deliberate on this and put their views, 6 eminent personalities to participate. What I will do, I will introduce them as I go one by one. And they are, of course, Mr. Tom Jose from Kerala, Shashi Bhushan Shukla from IWAI, Mr. Vijay Arora of Indian Register of Shipping, Captain Anil Kishore Singh from Adani Group, Captain Rakesh Singh from ICSA, and Dr. Amit Mukashi from USA. He's been invited specially to compare the scenario in India about what is the global scenario in the waterways. To start with, I will invite Shri Shashi Bhushan Shuklaji. He is an IRS, Member Traffic Inland Waterways Authority of India, and from 1999 batch. He is a BTech degree in Electronics Engineering and MTech in Digital Communication. He has worked in various departments of the IRS, Income Tax, Ministry of Commerce, and Industry in various capacities. He has varied experience on taxation matters, administration, finance, and trade and logistics sector. So, Mr. Shukla, can you hear me, sir? Mr. Shukla, please unmute.
Yes, Mr. Rai, thank you so much.
Yeah, Mr. Shukla, to start with you. As I said, what we are going to put to you is some views, and we will seek some replies from you as to what industry should be expecting and what we should be doing. Sir, transportation by inland waters increased from around 55 metric ton in 2018 to 75 in 2019 and 20 as per your annual report. And your plans are to increase it to around 150 by 230. But overall today it remains dismally low, as was admitted by your chairman also, just around 2%. We would like to know, sir, what is the broad strategy of IWI to shift cargo movement from rail and road to waterways, apart from seeking the assistance of the shippers or the trade people to use waterways, how we can induce them here that they use more of waterways? Mr. Shukla, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rai. So, as Madam Chairperson also has given in a detail the developments which are happening on national waterways. As you have talked about the traffic today on waterways, I will give a little glimpses of what is actually happening on waterways. See, we have 74 million ton of cargo as on date. And out of the 74 million ton, most of the cargo, 85% cargo comes from the transit. So, which is mostly in the Gujarat, Maharashtra and Goa, and also in the Calcutta and Haldia. With the development of national waterway, as Madam has also explained on NW1, Indo-Bangladesh protocol route and NW2. Our focus is going to be to increase the cargo of long haulage, where the movement is going to be more than 100 kilometers or 200 kilometers. And with this, with the development of NW1, IBP and NW2, from Varanasi up to Dibrugarh, we are developing around 4,000 kilometers of waterway. So with the development of this long stretch, we are hopeful that the cargo which is generating from this area and going to Bangladesh or also to Northeast, it will become much more commercially viable. And therefore, the people should start moving on it. Lot of infrastructure is under the development. We are also inviting the private participation, and slowly we are now experiencing that the movement is happening on NW1 also, and Indo-Bangladesh protocol route and NW2. Recently, few voyages has taken place, and the NW1 cargo has increased by 30% in last year, which is a very positive trend. And it has also happened because some of the cargo was not reported earlier and we have started accounting for it. But there is actual increase in the cargo. Likewise, there is an increase in the Indo-Bangladesh protocol route also. The cargo is increasing now. There is some diversion happening from land customs side also to waterways. As Madam has also mentioned that steel is showing interest. We are also talking to fertilizer ministry. Coal is now being transported on Indo-Bangladesh protocol route. So recently, as Mr. Anil Kishore is also here in the panel, and he has taken initiative and he has taken coal from Haldia, imported coal, which has gone to Guwahati to various cement industries. So this is one regular movement which can happen, provided the LED which we are working on Indo-Bangladesh protocol route, a stretch of around 200 kilometers from Sirajganj to Daikowa, which is a critical stretch where LED is less during a few months, and the contract has already been awarded. The work is going on. Once it is met 2.5 meter, which is our target, then the whole of Indo-Bangladesh protocol route will have uniform LED of 2.5. Therefore, we are very hopeful that this imported coal cargo, which is regularly required by the cement industry, that can put on IBP. Likewise, the steel industry, now it is showing interest of transporting steel to Bangladesh. There's a lot of export of steel, sponge iron and steel plates which are happening. So recently Rasmi Metal has shown interest. SAIL is showing interest, and they are coming on Indo-Bangladesh. So these are these few new initiatives, new cargoes which are moving. Slowly, people are coming to waterways, and we are hopeful that with time and with the infrastructure coming in place, and also O&M operators are coming in place for terminals, private people will bring in some more efficiency. And this stretch, what we call Eastern Grid, connecting Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and India, that can become one very vibrant network of national waterways. Mr. Rai.
Yeah, Mr. Shukla, thank you so much. I mean, you did answer quite a few of the questions which you raised, and there are several more particularly related to the government policies and issues related to taxation, etc. But I think I will come back to you later. Meantime, I'll bring in somebody who has used the waterways and know his problems, his difficulties, and what were his impressions. So I will call in Captain Anil Kishore Singh, who is a master mariner of 1979 batch of Rajendra. And after sailing with several reputed shipping companies, including SCI and V Ships, he served Director General of Shipping, Reliance Industries, Shipping Division, and Adani Mundra Port. At present, he is CEO of the Dredging and Inland Waterways verticals of Adani Group. Mr. Anil Kishore Singh, can you hear me? Anil Kishore Singh, can you hear me?
Unmute yourself.
Mute. You should unmute.
Are you on mute?
I think he's unmuted, but the volume is low.
Speak now.
Hear me?
Yeah, now better.
Can
Okay,
hear,
sir.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Some kind of wiring issues at my end.
No. Mike, I mean, I introduced as you are the one who used the waterways, and particularly your company has been actively involved in inland waterway transportation and dredging. Can you enlighten us challenges being faced by you, which needs to be addressed to smoothen out the sailings? And as you said, this should be as an advice that what the industry or the government should be doing, that we get more transportation by the waterways.
Yes, Rai Saab, definitely I would like to share it more with the gathering here than the people from Inland Waterways. We have been interacting regularly. We have got a lot of support from them. And in any case, I don't want to annoy them right now. So, but the problem that I face is that there was earlier the CIWTC, which was operating a lot of things and moving a lot of goods, earlier 60s and 70s, I would say. After that, there has been a lull. So now that the navigation and cargo movement has been sought to be restarted, certain inefficiencies which have crept in have to be removed. One of the things that everybody has talked about, not only me, but the trade also, is that the time taken on Inland Waterways is large, because the river is not a straight entity like a road. It's meanders. When it meanders, point-to-point distances go up. So the famed advantage of water transport is negated by the longer distance that a meandering river makes you do. For example, Varanasi terminal ma'am was talking about, and she's keeping her fingers crossed, because Varanasi by road and rail is about 900 kilometers. By waterway, it will be around 1400 kilometers. So actually, it's a longer distance, and that disadvantage nullifies any other advantage that you could gain. In any case, the cargo movement in India is road and rail bound, move very far away from waterways. Take the old Kolkata, that has had industries on the riverbank, but otherwise very little industries available on the waterfront. That makes last mile connectivity a problem. First mile connectivity is a challenge because goods are coming in from far inland. That kind of nullifies the advantage that the pure water leg will provide. Now, for example, but one of the ways to overcome that would be to have regular night navigation everywhere, so that the voyage time is reduced to half. That is not happening right now because of the lack of infrastructure available and the support available. For example, in Bangladesh, when we go to the IPR the route, the pilots there, or even our own pilots, so they are not very highly trained. They look at the color of water before they take you out. Naturally, color of water is not visible in the night time. Therefore, you can't really decipher where the deeper water is. So those are the kind of improvements that are required for inland waterways to become a serious alternative to anything. It's not going to give me an alternative to anything in a hurry, but at least a good serious supplement to the normal ways of moving cargo which exist in the country right now.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Anil Kishore. Appreciate your personal experience and comments. And as I said, I will again come back to you. Then I will call in our next panelist of the day, Mr. Tom Jose, a very senior administrator from Kerala. Mr. Jose, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, Mr. Rai. Thank you very much. I can.
Jose is a 1984 batch IS officer with vast experience with both the state as well as the central government. He has administrative, managerial, and diplomatic experience in various posts at state, national, and international levels during his long and illustrious career. He has also been the managing director of several government enterprises and served departments of labor, skills, PWD, metro rail, civil supplies, revenue, etc., etc. Superannuated this year in May as Chief Secretary of Kerala and is currently working as Chairman of Kerala Shipping Inland Navigation Corporation, KSINC. Sir, welcome you to this webinar and first time maritime sector. Sir, Kerala is a very popular for waterways, canals and its backwater. While from tourist point of view, backwater has taken significant strides and boasts of one of the finest luxury vessel Nefertiti. Cargo movement is not catching up. Sir, you have been Chief Secretary also. So I would like to know, any plans that how the cargo transportation in particularly say NW3 or how you plan to do that?
Well, Mr. Rai, thank you very much. That's a very interesting question. But I don't know whether I can give you a straight answer to that. How do you go about increasing cargo movement on water? I think one of the issues connected with the water transport is that probably one of the main issues in my experience I have found out is that we are looking at transportation from the point of view of different sectors. We lack a unified, holistic approach to transportation. And I think in any country, in any state, this is the first thing that we should have. Let me give you a couple of examples. That is, when road transport is the main backbone of transportation in this country, along with the rail. When the road transport department, that is the department which builds bridges, the PWD, when they build bridges across a river, across a canal, they don't give any thought to water transport. So the result is that there is no clearance for vessels to go underneath. In my own state, we have a classic few foolish instances where our PWD department built bridges across some strategic rivers, almost stopping all kinds of water transport forever. Because once you build a bridge, it costs about 100 crores to build. You cannot demolish it for boats to go underneath. Therefore, in the design stage itself, you have to take care of these issues. Similarly, when railways build bridges, railways are built long bridges in the backwaters of Kerala, stretching kilometers. Now, again, the same problem. They have never given a thought to water transport, with the result that movement of vessels on water just doesn't take place. So I think the first thing that we require in this country is a holistic, unified approach to transportation as a whole, be it water transport, be it rail, be it road, be it air. I don't think we should say that we should try to increase water transport at the expense of road transport or at the expense of rail transport. All these have to exist, coexist, cohabit in a peaceful fashion. That, I think, should be our first step. Secondly, there are some approaches which we need to take. That is, we need to have a business approach to issues vis-a-vis a regulatory approach in many of these cases. Regulation, no doubt, is very, very essential for safe movement of goods and people. However, now that you mentioned the Nefertiti, let me give you an example. When we actually, from the KSINC, thought of designing the first ever steamship cruise vessel in India, we ran into a lot of problems because nobody in IRS, nobody in DG shipping knew what we were doing. Even though we tried to explain to them, this is what we want, and this is the issue. Therefore, it took us a lot of time. And there was this problem, there was this tussle between a business approach and a regulatory approach. So much so that I had to seek the assistance of my colleague, Dr. Malini Shankar, who was a DG shipping at that time. And together we thrashed it out. The point I'm trying to say is that when you design a vessel, the regulators also should understand what a customer wants or what a business house wants, and both have to work in tandem. Otherwise, things just don't move at all. This is from a practical experience. And therefore, I think that there needs to be a connect between the business and the government in these things. You have to ask what the business or the industry wants. Now, you have National Waterway 3. We inaugurated in 1993. It was inaugurated with a lot of fanfare, but nobody uses it, or very little use is there. Why the industry doesn't think that it is of any value for them? We tried our level best to bring in cement industries, to bring in iron industries. Now the fertilizer guys use NW2 to some extent, but not to its fullest possible extent. So this has been a problem. So we need to understand what the market wants. Now, why build a canal or a waterway if there is nobody to use it? There has to be a functional purpose. I think this is what has happened in the case of NW3. And we built NW3, we declared it as a great waterway, but nobody uses it. When I was chairman of KSINC in my earlier avatar, we contacted Inland Waterways Authority of India. We leased in a couple of water terminals from them in the hope that we would be able to use it for cargo movement. Apart from the fact that we lost a lot of money in the process, no cargo was forthcoming. Nobody was willing to utilize it. They said, road is faster, road is less time consuming, water is slow, and water takes a lot of time. We are in a hurry to get our things done. So these kind of practical issues, we need to actually look at it. If you look at the upkeep of our waterways, again, that is another issue. We must also understand that many of these things are laid very intricately. It's not a question of transportation alone. It is a question of environment. It is a question of people's livelihood and so on and so forth. For example, we dredge our waterways so that there is enough draft. Nobody has a clue as to where to dump the dredging material. Now, where do you dump it? This is an environmental problem. The people who are involved in dredging has no idea. And when you try to dump this dredge material into some place, the local residents come and say, they're not here. You go and throw it somewhere else. Now, you can't go and dump it in the sea because, again, the environmentalists come and say that a lot of fish will get affected by all this dredge material. Some of the material is radioactive material, especially the dredge material from Quailon area, which IWAI is finding it difficult to dispose of. So we have to look at solutions in these areas. What exactly are we going to do? These kind of problems. You cannot remove the environment from these issues. Another issue is fishing. Now we built the fastest transport motorboats in Kerala, about 11 to 12 knots or so. Now, if I run those boats in our waterways and canals, the swell that is created is so big that it washes all the nearby house kitchens free of cost. Now, people don't like it. Therefore, these are some of the practical issues which we actually have to look into. And I think over a period of time, we did not really address these issues. We have been trying to address these issues with the IWAI also. A couple of years back, I remember that when we mooted this idea of restoring the north-south or the west coast canal in Kerala, which is about 580 kilometers or so, We also approached Government of India and said that why not we have a 50-50 company to take care of this. There were some initial discussions, but afterwards we did not, we could not move forward. So the state government on its own moved forward. But we have not been able to complete it because there's a lot of land acquisition and other issues involved in it to create a canal like that. So it has to be in such major projects, there has to be it has to be a joint venture with the union and the state governments. And these are decisions, these are policy decisions which we need to take at a higher level, at the highest level, so that everybody is on board. Otherwise, we will always end up looking at departmental or single agency solutions for the problems, which I don't think is the future. So these are my opening remarks on this issue. Any other questions I'd be able to, I'd be glad to answer.
Thank you so much.
Webinar moves on.
You had dealt or taken up most of the issues which were there, particularly related to Kerala and yours. But if any more questions, I will come back to you. Meantime, I have seen some questions, particularly related to regulatory bodies. And Mr. Jose, thanks to you for taking up the issue of understanding between regulatory bodies and the stakeholder, which is, I must say, many of us would like to hear. There has to be a better understanding between the administration and the people who are using the shipping sector. My next request will be to our panelist, Mr. Vijay Arora, because a lot of questions has been raised regarding regulatory regime. I have a question even from Mr. Hajra, the past chairman, managing director, talking about the poor regulatory control on the barges which are operating on the IBP segment. But Mr. Arora is a marine engineer, currently working as joint managing director with Indian Register Shipping, and takes care of class matters and surveys, regulatory requirements, and upkeep of the ship. He has been instrumental in reviewing and reframing the class rules to facilitate inland transportation and for new buildings of the waterways. Mr. Arora, I know you have been actively involved with the various rules, regulations, particularly related to the classification of boats, ships, etc. My first question, and very simple one, is to you. Are IRS rules today in line with inland vessels rules of other countries? And what are the issues which are faced by Indian Register Shipping during classification of inland waterways vessels? Be brief, because there are.
I'll be open to answer the question what you've raised. First of all, I'll say that as of today, IRS has got around 300 vessels which are classed under inland waterways rules. And out of these 300, around 85% are general cargo vessels. And the best part is that most of the 85% vessels are constructed in our own country, which are built by the various yards which are there, who are manufacturing these, or who are fabricating these vessels of inland vessels, basically. Further to the rules, when you talk about IRS has been in 2019, we have tried to modify our inland waterway rules and have brought in line with the other class societies and also the standards used by the international community, basically. And that is how the rules for dry cargo, tankers, passenger vessels, tugs, barges, and pontoons were modified in 2019. Also, I like to say that we had been working with Inland Waterway Authority of India, and wherein they had entered into a contract with the DST of Germany, wherein they had made 14 designs, and all those 14 designs were verified by us to see that the standard design is available, and they have a principal approval by IRS, and any shipyard can use those designs, and these designs can be made available for Inland Waterway Authority of India, and they can start manufacturing these vessels, basically. So the desire was that we need to take these things up, so that this started around 5 years back when we saw that a lot of potential is existing with respect to Inland Waterway Authority, and they were also growing, and these things were coming up, basically. As far as other rules, when we talk about beside the class societies, we have ensured that since we talk about green revolution coming in, we want that the shores our domestic water should be protected and environment should be clean. So we have tried to see that the oil, chemical and liquid gas tankers are meeting the European standards, which is ADN standards, and also the S10 standard for the passenger ships we have adopted, basically, and these have been made in our rules basically. We did not have separate your stability requirements where we used to follow ISO standards basically. So we have made our classification rules also on stability of the passenger ships, and our cargo vessel safety is now in accordance with S10 standards, so European standard basically. When you talk about these problems faced with us from the point of view during construction, we do face some standard problems basically, because the problems are like when you say that there are, because we have Inland Waterway Authority, we have state governments basically, so they have their own rules. Simple is that, let us say we talk about passenger, the weight of the passenger person is taken as 65 kg in Inland Waterway Authority, whereas some state authorities take 75 kg. Our rules say 75 kg, so there are issues with respect to weight based upon which the consumption starts, basically, number one. We have related to machinery and fire safety systems. There are issues where the rules of state governments may not be very clear, and those issues have to be resolved basically. There are requirements for lifeboat and rescue boats different from state to state basically, or from Inland Waterway Authority. The intake stability requirements definitely get impacted because the weight is 65 or somewhere it is 75. That also is impacted basically. Then we have damage stability requirements for certain vessels, like Inland Water Authority says something like for passenger vessels, the number of bulkheads will be determined based upon the damage stability, but the damage stability requirements have not been documented basically. The low line rules, when we talk about for these passenger vessels, have been fixed. 760 millimeters are required, let us say, for all length of the vessel. But the problem then happens that vessel with lower length cannot meet that freeboard requirements, or for cargo vessels, there is no freeboard specified basically. So in short, these are the issues based upon which, when you say there are variations. But now what is happening is that the IV Act is being, will be put across, the bill is being prepared and will be put in the parliament in the monsoon session. So hopefully these should be addressed. And we have also made the IV rules which are lying with the Inland Waterway Authority of India now. So once the IV Act is clear, a bill is passed, the rules will be verified again, and the stakeholders will be asked to give their comments. We will try to see that this this IV rules are aligned with the stakeholders' input in the IV Act. And at that point of time, IRS also again intends to look into our rules so that everybody is aligned and we don't find any problem in implementation of the rules. Basically. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Before I let you go, can you tell me what about the 14 standard design approved by IWAI, and has any vessel has been built to that standard? And also about those 8 ROPEX vessels which are being built in Cochin shipyard. Can you just update me what is the status of these new buildings for waterways?
Sir, as far as these 14 designs are concerned, I don't recollect anyone having used this waterway. I think IWA will be able to better in a position to say that whether these designs have been used, but I have not come across somebody coming forward and taking, constructing against these vessels basically. Now, as far as these, what about ROPEX vessels in Cochin, they are already, I think these are being built for Inland Water Authority of India, and they've already been built. These 8 vessels have already been built, and I think Inland Water Authority has taken the delivery of these ROPEX vessels basically.
Anyway, thank you, Mr. Arora. I think I will ask Mr. Shukla when I go back to him. My next, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
My next panelist is Captain Rakesh Singh. He is a Master Marine Managing Director of A3 and Trading Private Limited and a leading consultant in matters of maritime arbitration and claim. He is also the current General Secretary of ICSA. So, Captain Rakesh Singh, can you hear me, please?
Yes, sir, I can.
Yeah, I mean, you have been one of the person who have been interacting mostly with the shippers who have been using inland waterways. I will just ask your suggestions. I know a lot of issues, difficulties, problems which have been faced, but what in your opinion, your suggestion to improve the trade on waterways, as Dr. Amita Prashad also said, the time has come that we should utilize it. And so what needs to be done that more and more transportation people go to waterways? I'm looking for your suggestion and comments.
Yes, Raja, thank you very much for having me as panelist. some suggestions have already come from my co-panelists. And I think what Dr. Malini Shankar and earlier Dr. Amita Prasad also said in the very beginning of this program was that the potential is there, but it is untapped and unutilized. So I suppose this meeting is organized to familiarize with the inland waterways transportation difficulty faced and what can be done. So in order to make suggestions, I think it's very important first to identify the problems honestly. And since I represent trade bodies, I'll try and do that first. So I am very pleased. I'm very pleased. Sorry?
I said be brief in your comments. Eh?
Yeah. So I am very pleased that Mr. Shukla said that inland waterway transportation in India, actually 80% is a stevedoring business. But what the model shift means is a long haul cargo transportation, that is NW1 and NW2. My co-panelists Anil and I had a very adventurous last 1 year. And we had literally what is called baptism by fire. And so I would not address the challenges. I will come back to what you have asked for my suggestions. But before that, let me tell you, it reminds me in NW1 and NW2, if I compare, NW1 has got its own geographical challenge because, as Anil said, from Calcutta to Farakka, about 450 kilometers and heading in the north direction, going nowhere. It's only after Farakka, when you turn to the west, then the waterways becomes parallel to the road and railways. And then it offers the geographical parity with other modes of transportation. NW2, on the other hand, has definite geographical advantage. It's straight line from Bengal to Assam, but it has different challenges. The issue is that we had a meeting with the minister and we brought this point up to him that Jal Marg without Jal doesn't sound very good. If you say waterways, please give water first. The first, second, and third priority is to provide water in the waterways. Our experience in last 1 year has been that, again, it reminds of Tamil saying that when you have a dog, you don't have stones, and when you have stones, there are no dogs. So when there is water, the clearance under the bridge is not there, and when there is a clearance, there is no water. NW2, the northern part of NW2, I'm coming to the specific issue now. The NW2, which is Brahmaputra, the northern part of NW2, which is north of Dhaka and going up to Assam, is specifically meant for India. Even the protocol has been worded and it says that the northern part is for India's interest. And this is where you get most of the time 1.5 or 1.8 meters of water. As such, the challenge is that the cargo on these routes is one way. As again, Mr. Shukla said, there's a good movement of coal. There can be movement of other cargoes from Calcutta to Assam, further up. But there's nothing backward. The Bhutan cargo possibility is there, but we will see once the COVID crisis is over. So the northern part of NW2 needs to be looked into very seriously. I know there's a 300 crore rupee contract where 80% of contribution is by Indian government, but this needs to be dredged, and not only dredged, it needs to be marked and made navigable. Otherwise, it's a graveyard of ships. In a voyage, a ship may run 3 to 4 times aground on that route because the waterways are not marked, the pilots are not trained. And once the customer loses, as such, a customer who's venturing out to model shift and giving us opportunity to carry containers, carrying Coca-Cola or Pepsi, just to name a few, take us to Assam by waterways. And if a ship takes 2 months or runs around 5 times, he loses confidence. It's very difficult for us to go back to him and tell him that no, everything is fine. We will, we'll continue to provide service. So if a customer loses confidence, very difficult to restore. So kindly let's focus on NW2 northern part. Southern part is very good, and that is where the great potential exists between Calcutta, Haldia, and Dhaka region, and which we have just started. My member companies have started to exploit that, and I hope there will be successes. NW1, as I said, geographical challenges, lack of water, lack of clearances is laden with problems. And I smiled when Dr. Malini Shankar said that all the rest to Varanasi terminal. We also, hope that, terminal functions, but at the moment with 1.2 meter or 1 meter water, we have doubts. The second part, again, the problem and the solution is that we really hardly had vessels designed for long haul cargo, inland vessels. The vessels were designed for barging in Gujarat, Maharashtra, or Sagar to Haldia or Sagar to Calcutta. What we need, we have gone through DST design, it's very fanciful design, let me put it bluntly, absolutely. What we need is something like a carrying capacity of 2,000 to 2,200, 300 deadweight capacity, which is equivalent to a railway rake, and at a draft of about 2.2 to 2.45 meters, and no frills, please. We are competing with the road railways, so we need no frills. Yes, safe indeed. Carrying capacity, draft, clearance is important, but no frills. And same goes to the rules, the IB rules. We need a rule which is trucking plus, not MS minus. So my request to Arora Sahib is rules probably, it will be more realistic that who are our competitors, and diluting MS tax is not going to serve a purpose. From the point of view of financing and encouraging this business, it is a very long pending request, and once again I'm being repetitive here, is that we have requested that please bring inland vessels under tonnage tax rule. Today only merchant shipping vessels are under tonnage tax rule. If you do bring it under tonnage tax rule, there will be people willing to invest. And last in this series is that I give an example of Europe. The European rivers earlier, before Second World War or immediately after Second World War, the rivers were lined up with the industries and with the environmental concerns and issues, public awareness. The industries were removed from the river sites. But what the government did, it encouraged the space to be developed into logistics centers and warehouses. And that kept the waterway going and water transportation going in those countries. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Captain Rakesh Singh. And appreciate your suggestion and comments. And before I call my next panelist, I will go back to Dr. Amita Prasad. Madam, my apologies. I didn't see you raising your hand, but probably you wanted to comment on what Mr. Vijay Arora commented about those new buildings. So please take the floor if you have any.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the panelists can answer 2-3 things I like to say. And from my office, Captain Arya has already replied to a few on the, he has typed it already. One was about the design. These designs are available free of cost on our website. The 14 designs which the German companies had done it for us. So they are available on our website free of cost. Anybody can take it up. Second thing was about the tonnage tax. The tonnage tax we are pursuing with the government. We have received the comments from this. From INSA also earlier. So we are pursuing it. And the third one is about the IB Act. I'm glad that it was taken up already. Only thing I wanted to see that IRS is, we have hired them to help us out in helping this. The IB Act 2020, what we are making 2020, it is very modern. Central government powers are for prescribing most of the rules and others. About 17 rules we are going to make it, and as soon as the act is passed, the rules will also be done. And more or less very modern concepts and everything have been taken for that. I just wanted to clarify on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Prasad, very much. And just to update you, this is our normal practice that after every webinar or conclave, we make a list of what is the outcome or what are the suggestion proposal, and we'll submit them to you for your consideration. So thank you so much, Madam, for your comment. And I will now go back to our panelists. My last panelist for the day is Dr. Amit J. Mukashi. I mean, he's a marine engineer, MSc in Marine Operations, UK, and has done his doctorate in marine policy from USA. We have especially invited him all the way from USA to participate in our webinar because he has done some research work on the waterways in the United States and has taken a lot of interest about Indian waterways and the reasons that Indian waterways is slow to pick up compared to other Europe and all that. So Dr. Mukashi, welcome to a webinar on the Indian soil. And as I mentioned to you, we learned about your research work on US marine highways and inland and coastal shipping, how you look at Indian scenario compared to that, and what we need to bridge the gap between potential and the performance in the Indian waterway.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me. This is wonderful. It was a pleasure to listen to my fellow panelists. Really very informative. I would like to start off with saying that a lot of the arguments I heard on your side, you could take them straight off from there and apply them here. They would still apply. So the challenges are pretty much the same. I don't know whether that's a good thing, but there you go. That also means that perhaps the benefits could also be very similar. Maybe we need to look at this from a more broader perspective. A lot of the arguments tend to be very focused on the maritime industry as such. Perhaps stepping back and looking at it from a shipper's perspective, like some of our panelists have said, would give us a better, more broader understanding of what the challenges are. It was wonderful to hear Dr. Shankar, Dr. Prasad, and Chief Secretary Jose, because they have the ability and they have had to see these challenges from a more broader perspective. They were not perhaps limited by our vision of the maritime industry. Some of the things that that were mentioned, which applied here as well. Dr. Prasad ended with saying, just start using it. And I think that's wonderful. That's exactly what needs to happen. This is like any other innovation. Like what you said, I did a lot of work, research on the stakeholder relations and influences in the marine highways here. And the biggest, most dominant influence is the peer influence. Your shippers are looking at each other, to see who's going to do this, who's going to start using the marine highways first. So really, that's a very sensible suggestion and in line with other innovations that you see out in the industry. Again, Mr. Jose pointed out to the limitations of air draft, dredging, erosion. Same things apply out here. We just spent $1.7 billion on raising a bridge very close to where I am. And, perhaps the circumstances were different. This was because of the increase in size of the Panama Canal. But yes, air draft is something that often tends to be ignored. Again, as Mr. Singh said, Rakesh Singh said, we need to identify and assess the problems honestly. Now, it's wonderful. We are all cheerleaders for this industry. We wouldn't be here on today's Zoom call if we were in some way associated with the maritime industry. But we need to understand what the other stakeholders, how they perceive this particular opportunity as well. One thing, again, we need to understand that we are an industry that runs on derived demand. So we need to understand what is the demand for. And when we say the demand, it's not just moving goods, but moving goods with which attributes? What is it that the shipper is looking for? Is he impacted by the speed, by the reliability, frequency? How often can you move the goods? If your service is once a week, then that means inventory cost for him. Flexibility, loss and damage. All these things end up with the shipper bearing a higher inventory cost. So this is something that perhaps we need to understand. So this is on the cost side. When we move to the benefit side, we need to have a similar, perhaps broader view of the benefits. Ideally, yes, we would like to have it in clear dollars per ton mile or ton kilometer, terms, and that is the most, I guess, defensible outcome. But there are other benefits, that the rest of the world looks at. Environment being one, but when we make the environment argument, we have to look at it from a life cycle perspective. Yes, if the ship is running at maybe 7-8 knots, it's giving you those perceived environmental benefits. But if you increase the speed, does that still hold? Are we leading to congestion on either side of the gateways, of the ports? In that case, again, perhaps you may lose some of the argument. So, this has to definitely be considered. Another thing would be, you would perhaps save something on road maintenance, and that may be of interest to the transportation department. If we are taking some traffic off the road, that has value. Again, resilience, safety, security, the kind of things that perhaps today under increased defense and perhaps the natural challenges that you are seeing today, with COVID-19 and other things, that perhaps bring those arguments to the fore as well. That maybe those things should be considered, and that would perhaps improve your argument about using the waterways. Another thing is perhaps instead of taking an adversarial position with the other modes, we need to realize that we are rarely an independent mode. We use other modes for the first and last mile, and others have been successful in collaborating. I don't admittedly know the exact status right now of Konkan Rail, but they had an interesting truck on flat car experiment, which sounded very interesting, and at least what I read about it seems to suggest that it was reasonably successful. So again, I would like to end the introduction with saying that really these arguments are not unique to India. A lot of these challenges are there in other places too. Also means that the benefits perhaps can be better assessed. Maybe you can market this to the policymakers, as a broader, opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Amit. And special thanks to you for joining us all the way from United States. Actually, Mr. Shashi Bhushan Shukla ji, I will come back to you to raise some very pertinent questions. But in between, I have a very important question from one of the dignitaries. Madam Malini Shankar ji would like to know from Mr. Tom Jose that Kerala had tried an incentive scheme to shift cargo from road to water transport. Can you share his experience on this? Mr. Jose, please.
Thank you, Mr. Rai. Yes, we did try. That is right. The subsidy, that is, if you use waterways for moving cargo, there is a per ton per kilometer subsidy that is available now. It has been used by some people, but not too many. I guess the main point when we discuss with some of those stakeholders is that they cited the reasons of, especially in Kerala, because many of this movement is on short haul routes. So they cited the question of time involved in that. They said that takes them more time. So even if you give a subsidy, it doesn't really help them. So this is still, I would say, is on an experimental stage. Perhaps we need to think more about it, how to lure people, how to lure other stakeholders into making use of waterways much more than they're doing right now. The subsidy system is still on with the government. We do use it, but not to the extent we hope that it would be received by the shipper.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. My special thanks to you on behalf of the Institute for joining us today, despite your busy schedule and standing what you enjoy in the maritime fraternity. Before I conclude, I know we are running short of time. I'll invite Shri Shashi Bhushan Shukla ji to please answer one or two questions. Request would be that please be brief in your answer. The questions relate to low drafts and silting, which remain the controlling factor for river or canal transportation. Additionally, floods and natural calamities work as a major disruption. Also, is there any tax, holiday, or concession being looked into or being planned? So two questions, sir. One is about the natural calamities and the problems due to water flow in the rivers and canals. And secondly, is the tax holiday, if any, is being contemplated? So I did hear Dr. Amita Prasad mentioning about the tonnage tax.
Yeah,
So,
thank you, Mr.
sir.
Thank you. So I will first thank Mr. Rakesh Singh and also Mr. Anil Kishore Singh that they have taken these voyages and they have come out with the challenges. Okay, I will just shortly answer their questions because what initiatives we have taken after the challenges, and that also includes low draft and pilot test problems. So after, see, Mr. Rakesh Singh has mentioned that in North Bangladesh, there is a lesser channel markers and that is creating problem. The pilots are not trained. So Madam Chairperson has also taken up with our counterpart in Utah for the training of pilots and also for making the channel markers much more on the routes so that the vessels mostly got stuck up because of pilots' mistake. So we are trying to sort out those issues. As we have discussed that this stretch was never used. When it was never used, we were not knowing the exact problems. Now, when few voyages has taken place, we have noted down the problems and we are trying to sort it out, including the procedural problems we had encountered with the customs and all those. So customs is also on board and we are trying to sort them out. Regarding tax holiday and tonnage tax, we are pursuing it with the central government. The tonnage tax we have already recommended in India Maritime Vision document also, and we will take it separately also with the government to pursue it with the finance ministry, so that the similar rule which is applicable in the SITs can also be applicable on the inland vessels. As far as the Mr. Arora, that 8 RoPax vessels and 2 RoRo vessels which have been designed with has been made by CSL, they have already come. 8 RoPax vessels have already been delivered, but they are not based on the DST design, because I have seen few have raised the questions in the chat box, and they have been designed indigenously by the Cochin shipyard. One more thing I will like to mention, because I forgot in my previous thing, and it is very important here, that second addendum has been signed with Indo-Bangladesh, and a very important stretch has come out, which is Dhulyan-Rajshahi route. So Dhulyan-Rajshahi, that is having the potential of 4 million ton of stone chips which can be transported to Bangladesh, and currently it is being transported through land routes. And we are working on this route, and it can be made operational very fast. So I think this is what I will add here, and if some questions are there, which we can reply later on also. If anything else you want to know.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, we have several questions, and as you said, we will come back to you to get more information. Mr. Anil Kishore Singh, you also had several points, but I'm sorry, we have not been able to take many of your points because of shortage of time. But I will still like to know if you have anything specific point and particularly related to dredging, because I believe it is Adani who have taken over the contract for NW1 dredging. Any comment on that?
Yes, specifically answer the dredging question. You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
So the dredging part, Shuklajab and Madam Amita Prasad has not mentioned it, and therefore I would like to blow my own trumpet a little bit. We have managed to do up to 2.5 meters almost up till Patna, which is almost 1,000 kilometers if you count from Sandits. So I think it is a good achievement. The cargo rationale and the other parts will follow. Rakesh has already pointed out that the north-south river should be treated as one, and the east-west river would be treated as another leg, because otherwise the diagonal distance for the road and roll somehow negates the advantage of inland waterways. So dredging is possible. What we have done in the first year is we tried to do a lot of dredging. Mr. Jose was pointing out what to do with the material. In Ganga, we just move the material and let it flow with the channel. Wherever there is an obstruction, the material is shifted a little bit so that the water stream can carry it. In the first year, we tried to do a lot of things by trying to... Are you still there? Yeah. So in the first year, we made a lot of mistakes by trying to really over dredge the whole material in the hope that the way we do it in the sea, if you need 14 meters depth, you go to 15 meters, create a cushion for that 1 year. But it doesn't work like that in the rivers. So the methodology was found, training with bamboo bundling screens that helped us achieve a depth. And this year, in the leanest of months, we have the required depth available. IWAI authorities are there, they will certify that. First year we struggled, second year it was not so bad. So the rivers can be trained with a lot of the expertise is available. We are mariners from the main fleet area. It took us time to understand what the river is, but there are people, experts in the river available. The dredging depths are possible. Bangladesh depth that we are talking about is possible. Of course, it is another government working there, which we don't really have too much control over.
Anyway, Captain Singh, very nice, and an honest admission. Even I admitted to start with that we are the people from the ocean going shipping. So inland waterways is fairly new to even understand for us. And that was the reason that we wanted to have a conclave today to know why or what we can do to improve our transportation through these waterways.
So Rai Sahab, give me just half a second more. I just want to say something in a lighter vein.
Yeah.
We talked about the 2% cargo in the inland waterway segment. 2% out of the 2%, only 2% is long haul cargo, and of that 2%, only 2% is on Indian bottom right now. It has a lesson for operators, regulators, and shipbuilders.
No, that's what our intention today was, that how to induce or motivate the Indian shipper and the ship owners to make good use of the waterways. That Dr. Amita Prasad very rightly said, the water is there, rivers are there, canals are there. It is, you need nobody to come and drive their cars or trucks on the roads. So why they need anything special for the waterway? So that point is well taken. I think we are running short of time. So I will conclude our discussions now. My apologies to all those people who raised many other questions, but we'll come back to you. Please bear with us that because of the shortage of time, we have not been able to take all the questions. And my special thanks again, apart from the two dignitaries, Dr. Malini Shankar and Ms. Amita Prasad, special thanks to the panelists, Mr. Tom Jose, Shashi Bhushan Shuklaji, Mr. Vijay Arora, Captain Anil Kishore, Captain Rakesh Singh, and Dr. Amit Mukashi. Thank you so much. Thanks for being a participant today, and we look forward to your support in future as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rai Sahab. Thank you very much. I now request Mr. T.S. Girish, country head of DNVGL, to summarize the session. Mr. Girish is also the head of the technical meeting subcommittee under which we have hosted today's webinar. Mr. Girish.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjeev. Thank you to all the eminent panelists and Mr. Rai for some very engaging discussions on this very important topic. I have the pleasure of summing up today's deliberations. As rightly pointed out in the inaugural discussions by both Dr. Malini Shankar and Dr. Amita Prasad, we have been discussing about the potential of inland waterways for years, but I think the time has come to act now. The panelists and initially Dr. Malini mentioned the various challenges which included lack of water in the waterways through the year, last mile connectivity, lack of industries closer to inland waterways, the huge time taken due to longer distances by inland waterways, air draft issues, nighttime navigability, etc. Key suggestions for boosting the inland waterway transportation from the panelists included holistic unified transport policy, which was mentioned by Mr. Tom Jose, adoption of the proposed inland waterway rules, tweaking of taxation rules for inland waterway vessel owners, investment to ensure navigability for some larger tonnage vessels and round-the-year navigability. Having said same, Mr. Shashi Bhushan and Dr. Amita Prasad elaborated on the extensive infrastructure work that has already been completed on NW1, NW2, Indo-Bangladesh waterway protocol to the tune of around 1,000 crores in the last 3 to 4 years. It was stressed by Dr. Amita that stakeholders would have to come forward and use the waterways, and same was stressed by Mr. Shashi Bhushan as well. Some very valid points highlighted by Dr. Amita also included on the possible reduction in maintenance costs by Dr. Amit actually, in the possible reduction in maintenance costs towards road rail by moving to marine waterways. It is important to highlight that if we were to realize the potential of 30% cargo movement to waterways would mean that a large number of vessels would require to be built, giving a boost to shipbuilding, impetus to all ancillary industries, large employment potential as well. Well, we sincerely hope that we move forward in the coming years and there is a boost to this sector of immense potential. As Mr. Rai mentioned in the beginning, IMEI will sum up these discussions and send it across to IWAI. IMEI would also be very happy to be involved with IWAI towards this very important mission. I would invite Mr. David Birwatkar, Senior Fellow of Institute of Marine Engineers, to give the vote of thanks.
Thanks, Girish. So it gives me great joy to conclude today's conclave. It was indeed so enthralling to hear the thoughts of such esteemed professionals. Their unique perspective brings to light of the future of inland waterways transportation in India in a multifaceted manner. There is so much to learn and understand. It really gives food for thought as to how this can be really expanded and taken to the next level. We thank Mr. V.K. Jain, our ever enthusiastic chairman of IMEI Mumbai Branch, for welcoming the VIPs. Special thanks to Dr. Malini Shankar, chairperson NSB, for sparing time and agreeing to inaugurate this conclave. I know many have already congratulated you, madam, on your being appointed as Vice Chancellor of IMU, but would like to reiterate our hearty congratulations for this. Of course, well deserved indeed. We would also like to thank Dr. Amita Prasad, Chairperson, Inland Waterways Authority of India, for laying down a strong opening act with the introductory note. You, madam, truly laid down the base for the brilliant discussion that took place. Special thanks to our panelists, Mr. Tom Jose, Mr. Shashi Bhushan Shukla, Mr. Vijay Arora, Captain Anil Kishore Singh, Captain Rakesh Singh, and Dr. Amit Mokashi, all the way from USA, for agreeing to be part of this conclave and give their valuable inputs. We are also thankful to Mr. S.M. Rai, a fellow of IMEI, who moderated the conclave. Without his experience and invaluable inputs, we could not have conducted this so smoothly. Well done, Mr. Rai. Finally, no event is a success without the people that plan it, the people who will work tirelessly to ensure its success. IMEI Mumbai Branch is thankful to the technical subcommittee, which has Mr. T.S. Girish as the head, and his team for organizing this session with active support from the technology subcommittee. A special mention needs to be made of the behind the screen personnel who took all the efforts to make this possible. First and foremost, Sanjeev Mehra, who has always been at the forefront for taking care that a conclave of such dimensions take place without much problem. Comrade Bhupesh Tatar, who is always working in close conjunction with Sanjeev to take care of all the background work. Miss Neeta, with her usual promptness to do what is required, and all the rest who contributed to make this happen seamlessly. Last but most importantly, we are greatly thankful to all who attended today for being present in such large numbers, which has been instrumental in making this conclave a phenomenal success. We hope that this conclave has something for everyone and each person will take home enhanced and updated information on this topic. Cheers and wish you all a wonderful weekend. We now request the poll to be conducted, which will be followed by the national anthem. Over to you, Sanjeev.
Bhupesh sir, you'll have to conduct the poll. I am not able to do it. Bhupesh sir.
So it's on the screen now.
It's on screen now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Can we be excused now?
So we have immediately after the poll, that last thing on the agenda is the national anthem. So I would request just one more minute, please, after this.
Mr. Mehra, is chat being recorded?
Yes, sir.
Sanjeev, do we show the results here or?
Yes, yes, we have to. If you can just share them, sir.
Yeah, he's shared it. We can play the national anthem and bring things to an end.
Right, sir. 1 minute. I'll just put this on. Can I request everyone to please stand up in respect for the national anthem? We start.
Janagana mana adhinayak jaya he Bharat bhagya vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Utkala Vanga Vindhya Himachala Yamuna Ganga Uchchala Jaladhi Taranga तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you, everybody. And we bring an end to this lovely discussions which we had. Hopefully, we can give our takeaways as well as answer all the questions, which we will try and do. Thank you very much for being here, and we'll bring an end to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinay. Thank you. Thank you, Vinay.
Special thanks to Dr. Amita Prasad, madam. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You are my talk.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashoda sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all very much. Arora sir, thanks as always.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rai sir. Thank you, Rai sir. Bye.
Thank you, Rakesh ji. Thank you. David, goodbye.
Goodbye, sir. Thank you.
Girish, goodbye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Should I end the meeting, sir?
Okay, bye. Leaving.
Can do.
Thank-
Can do. Thank you.